Hey everyone, Zunzun here. Today we're going to be doing something a little different than usual. I decided last night that instead of making a video for you guys, I was going to binge watch a new series from Netflix. It's called Big Mouth. Seen a lot of reviews on it. A lot of people are saying it's really good. A lot of people I really like are saying it's really bad. A lot of content creators. So I decided to sit down and watch all 10 episodes. I just wanted to show you the scene. It's at the very beginning of the trailer. That's all I'm going to show. I'm not trying to become one of those reaction channels, but I just wanted to give you guys a little taste.
Hello?
Oh, good evening.
Are you the puberty fairy?
The fuck did you just call me?
The puberty fairy?
I'm the hormone monster. I'm just here to give your friend a nocturnal emission.
That right there represents the series more than I'd like to admit. The biggest problem I had with Big Mouth as a series was basically the fact that it was trying to be edgy throughout the entire series. I mean, as you guys can just see just from the trailer running across here, obviously. It was trying to be edgy, and a lot of silly stuff was going on, and it just wasn't being done very well. Like, it had an attitude of show trying, but it wasn't doing it very well. Big Mouth is a new show it's a Netflix exclusive. It's by Nick Kroll, Andrew Goldberg, Jennifer Flackett, and Mark Levine, and they're basically the creative directors or something. That's what they're listed as. And it's a show about these 4 or 5, maybe 6. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell because they don't that character right there, the one on the far left on the screen right now. I don't know if he's supposed to be a main character or not. They don't really. They don't really cover it very well because he'll show up in a lot of episodes and he'll be one of the friends in a lot of episodes, but then in a lot of episodes he won't show up, or he'll just seem like a background character. He'll play like any of the other background characters. So it's just it was kind of a hard show to get into because you didn't really know who you were trying to watch for. You have the small kid. His thing is that he hasn't hit puberty yet, and that was the guy in the bottom left right there. I actually kind of go through this thing how the commercial wants me to go through it, right? So you got Nick Kroll, and he plays this little fuck, and this little character's thing is that he's in the generation where everyone in his life is going through puberty, right? Everyone's keep moving the mouse here. Everyone's going through puberty. Everyone's exploring their body, learning about themselves. Their genitals are starting to come in and stuff like that. And he hasn't gone through puberty yet, and that's his big character thing. But the worst part about him is he has the lowest voice, and it almost seems nasally, so it's really hard to listen to for an extended period of time. And he's the main character, so that's kind of a problem. Character over here is generic Jewish character, and as you can see, he's got fucking Jews behind him in this scene when they're doing this wrestling match. Those are his introductory characters. They're rabbis, and I don't fucking know why, but he's the Jewish character, and he's the one who actually has hit puberty. As you can see, he's taller. He's got that little pedo stash growing in. The very first episode of the show, you get to see his dick. I shit you not. You guys may think I'm referencing something or something. No, you actually get to see his dick, and it shows it. And it's a tiny little kid dick. It's got a bush around it and everything. And that's your first introduction to these two characters. That's within the first episode of it, right? And then you're going to continue on over here. You got these two characters. Jesse Klein over here plays the female character, and that's the best way I can think of describing her, because that's what she is. She basically is the female mirror of what's happening to the male characters. As the male characters are going through puberty, she's going through puberty, and she's experiencing the same things, but from a gotta make sure my door's closed. From a female perspective, right? So while they're worrying about jizzing their pants, she's worrying about having her period and stuff like that. Completely unrelatable character. And I know. Excuse me, streamer. You don't have a vagina, so of course she's an unrelatable character. And that's not what I mean. The way she acts and the way she treats the world around her is it's every other character kind of has their moments where they're comically overdone, because it's supposed to be a Family Guy style show. So every character has their moments where they're overdone and everything, but she is just kind of constantly overdone. When she first gets her period, the first thing she says is she starts calling her mom by her first name, and she starts screaming at her and stuff. And she also has a really annoying voice, and she, of course, because it's a modern day television show, she has to be a feminist. Her mom is a hardcore feminist, but then you find out later that she's a feminist because her mom basically trained her to be a feminist. Her mom, ordained her into the religion. But you find out that her mom is cheating on her dad with another woman. woman. So, spoiler alert, by the way, in case that it's like you see it on episode 3. But if you're really worried about the inner workings of the Big Mouth series, then there's that. So like she's supposed to be the feminist character, but then they kind of like destroy feminism with how feminism leads to anti-masculine factors, and anti-masculine factors lead to men being left behind, women going for women and destroying families and stuff like that. Then you have Jason Manswab, blah blah blah. You have Jason freaking Taco over here, and he's the Spanish character with the crazy Spanish family, but it's like completely fucked his entire character. As you can see, Cotton Candy Brandy, he brings alcohol for the kids. In one of the episodes, they like have a house party, and he actually brings alcohol. He's kind of a secondary character, but then like 3 of the episodes are about him. So it's like a bunch of episodes will be like he'll be comic relief. He'll be there to get strangled or something, and it'll be like ha 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 ha. Way to go, Netflix. But then some episodes, like there's one episode where he has a kid with a pillow. We'll discuss that in the future. But there's one episode where he has a kid. He ends up getting with the red-haired girl. Again, spoiler alert. I know I'm saying it after I'm doing the spoilers, but I don't really think you guys are going to care that much. But he ends up getting with the girl. With this girl over here, Jessie Klein, and you're just left to wonder what the fuck is going on with this character. Is he supposed to be a main character? And it's not even like Seinfeld or something like that, where they had really strong comedy characters who would come in. I'm just gonna leave this up. No reason to move it around. Who had really strong comedy characters who would come in sporadically and wouldn't really be primary. It's like the Joey Tribbiani, if you guys have seen Friends. Joey Tribbiani is not a strong main character, but he can be used as a main character occasionally because they keep him involved in the story. This character will just disappear. He'll disappear. He'll come in to do something goofy, disappear. Have an episode about him, disappear, come in to do something goofy. Like that's his entire character, and that's why like he just seems like a strange character to me. We'll move on here. We got Jenny Slate, who is arguably one of the main characters. I'm not really sure because she has the same deal where everyone else has, where basically they're going through puberty and they're going through change and stuff like that. But she's like an antagonist a lot of the time, but then she still has factors of the protagonist. Like she's represented like a protagonist half the time. I feel like the writers didn't know what the difference was between an antagonist and a protagonist, and they were just like, hey, remember this character we wrote in? Well, we want this episode to be about him. Okay. And then over here you got Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele plays the ghost of a black musician. That's how racist I am. I don't even care enough to look it up. What the hell is wrong with me? Anyway, he plays the ghost of this musician, and his goal or role in it is kind of okay. There's 3 secondary characters, right? And these characters are actually really cool, and they're the hormone monsters. And the hormone monsters are basically, they come to the characters, as you saw at the very beginning of there, that was the hormone monster. They come to the characters and they give them everything that puberty gives them, and they're monsters because, they make those people monsters, right? For the scrawny kid who hasn't gone through puberty, he's like his hormone monster is basically this guy, because he doesn't have a hormone monster yet because he hasn't started going through puberty. So he has this guy and he goes and asks him, but they basically play the same role. And I don't understand. I know a lot of people have been having this concern, but I think that the way they should have done the show is that every individual character had their own hormone monster, because they show later that there's a character who actually has a unique hormone monster that follows him around, and it's tailored to that character. So I think each character should have had their own hormone monster, and that would have made it interesting, because it would have been like their hormones talking to them and communicating to them, so you could kind of see their internal struggle. But then they kind of ruined how hormone monsters work, so I guess that wouldn't really work. But yeah, so that's the character he plays. And then I guess these are just, this is the female hormone monster. This is the dad of the main kid. He's like gay or something like that. They play the characters really weird, right? But so it's an interesting show, but it's kind of cool in the fact that this fucking scene, I'm not even sure, this is gonna get my fucking video taken down, but the hardest part about this scene is or this show is that the scenes don't really the show doesn't really seem to work, or at least do what it's trying to do, because it's trying to make it like puberty a relatable instance. And I mean, I went through puberty 10 years ago now, because I'm such a manly man. No, I went through puberty 8 years ago now. It would be 9 years ago now. This is when I was going through puberty and everything. So I still remember a lot of these circumstances. I do agree that this is stuff that'll actually happen, and this is stuff that'll actually affect you. But I just don't like how this show displays it, because apparently when the writers made the show, they were like, oh, we're talking about real things that have actually happened to us. And it's like, okay, if they made the show so it was a realistic show, and then all this crap, all this weird shit where he's like swimming with his sperm or the hormone monster and stuff was all in their heads, that I would understand. But if they like don't know the line between fake or between fact and fiction in their own show. Okay, so overall, I'm not going to give it a rating now. Wait for the end of the show to give it a rating. But I didn't dislike the show, but I didn't like the show. It's kind of like watching Family Guy nowadays, right? When you watch modern Family Guy, it's not the funniest stuff, but it might give you a chuckle every here and there. You know, you're kind of just blatantly staring at it just because you're bored and you're watching some sort of entertainment, right? It's not the funniest, and I wouldn't even argue that it was the funniest. Heck, that brings me to my next point. The first time I laughed at the show wasn't until like the third episode, and it wasn't even a scene that I think they were trying to make funny, right? They have this character, and he's supposed to be like the coach. And basically what the coach does is he's like the ridiculous character, you know, he's the crazy, he's like how the principal is in American Dad, right? He's just this crazy character who has a crazy premise, ridiculous notion and idea to him. But he's supposed to be funny, and he is funny. I out of all the characters in the show, he's the only one who could consistently get me to chuckle. And the first time, oh man, every time I see it, anyway, the first time he made me laugh was he just said something dumb. He was like, oh, we need to stop. I need to get blah, blah, blah. I need to go to Walgreens or something. And it was just so out of the blue. And it wasn't even meant to be funny. I could tell they weren't trying to make it funny. They were just trying to open it up for another joke. And then I chuckled because it was just so random and it just made no freaking sense that it made me think about it. Okay, that's funny. That was like literally the first time I laughed, 3 episodes in. Now, am I saying it's a bad show or you shouldn't watch it? No, I actually think you should watch it because, sadly, I think this is the future of animation. I mean, we have great animated shows right now like BoJack Horseman and others, but we have great animated shows out. But this is like the lowest common denominator for still entertaining animation. I know that's kind of like a lot of flashy catchwords to put with it, but I would recommend watching this because I feel like, even if you don't like it, it is a representative of what anime, it's what anime is going to become, right? Right there, that's where you see the kid's penis. Anyway, now talking about animation, how does it look? I don't like the animation of the show. I feel like it's very grotesque. And that's kind of weird word to put it, but it's like it doesn't have the same charm that say South Park has, where it's like it's bad, but it's supposed to be bad, but it doesn't have the same like natural flowing grossness that say Family Guy has. Because Family Guy, the characters are all very defined in how they look, right? The only defining characteristic that any of the characters in this have, besides the fact that they're just ugly, is that the main character has a really big mouth, but all the characters have big mouths, right? And that's just like, that's it. The animation was not done in a way where it's very representative of each individual character, and sometimes you'll actually lose who it is that's talking or something, especially when they do like close up on their face and stuff. I mean, obviously there's, you know, differentiation, like the Jewish kid has a mustache and, you know, the girl is, you know, has more feminine features and stuff. But while they're talking and zooms in, you're like, there are no special characteristics to this character other than, oh, she has eyelashes and red hair. The Jewish kid has, or the Jewish kid has brown hair and that little pedo mustache and of course glasses. But that's basically it. That's it for like the creativity of the animation, and that's like that's obviously I think the animation is by far one of its weakest aspects. So we'll finally talk about it. In fact, I will. I'll skip ahead, see if I can find it, right? There it is. All right. Okay, so it's okay. Give me a second here. Okay. Well, will you actually go to? Okay, this scene right here, I literally had to stop, and my mouth was wide open, and I was like looking around. I had no idea what the fuck was going on. I was actually. I'm not even gonna make you guys look at it anymore, okay? I was actually mortified because at one point the 13-year-old girl is exploring her body. She pulls out a mirror and looks at her vagina and then proceeds to have a conversation with her vagina, as you guys saw right there. And it is like a like 7 minutes of you're literally staring at, even though it's animated, what is supposed to be a 13-year-old girl's vagina, and it's talking to her and it's like explaining, you know, the different parts of the vagina, you know, where the clitoris is, blah blah blah, and it's like, oh, and this is where all the fun happens, and like her mouth is supposed to be the hole, and I'm like, I was literally looking around like I was stunned that this was actually happening, but that is an actual scene in the movie as she talks to her vagina, and it kind of leads you to question. Because a lot of the stuff you're like, oh, it's ridiculous. Like there's one episode I was talking about where a character has sex with a pillow and then the pillow gives birth and the pillow and the baby are alive. And you kind of think it's in the character's head, but then at the very end of the series, the pillow makes a comeback and actually talks to another one of the characters. Or like the hormone monster, which you think is a figment of the Jewish kid's imagination because it just disappears from scene to scene, but it only disappears sometimes. Sometimes characters can see it. So when she's talking to her vagina, you're like, I guess it's actually a living vagina, but the penises aren't alive. Oh, but in the very first episode of the show, there are. But when the kid sees his friend penis, he then imagines everyone has giant penises. So there's a lot of penis humor, a lot of fart humor. You know, it's very much a Family Guy-esque TV show. But yeah, the vagina scene, literally, I was like, it will stun you. Like, I literally looked around like, what the fuck is going on? I thought I was imagining it because it was such a ridiculous concept for a freaking scene in a show. Another strange thing they do is they have the 13-year-old kids, as I was talking about earlier, get drunk. And they're like throwing up and stuff. And in this episode, they have a character, and he's like the actor character, and he's the big fancy actor character, right? And the main character's older sister is supposed to be like super hot, and she's trying to get in with the actor character, right? And they end up going into a room, and the only reason you see this entire scene is because the Jewish kid is with his girlfriend, and they're like in the closet, and they're like making out or whatever. And then the girl walks into her bedroom because her bedroom is where they're making out for some reason. The premise of the situation makes no sense, but they go in and they make out. They start making out, and the guy comes in, and the guy like kind of pushes her head down towards his crotch, like he's going for a blowjob, right? Because they're making out on her bed. So in my world, it's like, okay, that's, you know, it's a little forceful. I would never do that. And then they like are kissing, and he like does it again, like pushes her head down. I'm like, okay, that's messed up. And she gets up and she's like, hey, I'm angry at you. I didn't want this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but you were making out with him on your bed. So I think the implication was kind of that's what you were going for. Was that it was gonna, you know, turn sexual. Freaking hilarious kid anime or adult animation show gone sexual. But they do the scene, and she like leaves, and he's like, okay, whatever, and they go downstairs and they start playing charades and stuff, and she like pretends to force a head down that isn't there, and one of the other girls is like, oh, that's blah blah blah, and she's talking about the actor dude. And they make him out to be just this horrible fucking person for like pushing her head down, because they're like, oh, you know, he was forcefully trying to force himself on me sexually and stuff. Again, they were making out on her bed. And they even make fun of the fact that asking someone for a blowjob is weird, you know, and assuming someone's going to give you a blowjob is weird. But blowjobs aren't weird because, you know, sexuality isn't weird. But this character is a terrible person for like gesturing her down towards his crotch. And it's like, okay, I don't necessarily agree with that. And like everyone turns against the guy, and they like put a vomit hat on his head and everything. And then they kill him at the end of the episode. They're like, oh, he fucking died. And they're like, they take it so fucking far. And it's like, okay, I don't agree with what he did. I personally don't agree. I do think it was a little messed up, you know, don't be so forceful, blah, 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 you know, let sex happen the way it's going to happen. But the fact that they were like, okay, this character is so fucking evil, we have to throw vomit on his head, cut his tires, and then kill him just for like making a semi-forceful but still consensual action while having sex. It's kind of just like, holy shit, what am I watching? And I kind of find it hard to believe, because a lot of the show, it seems like it's very feminist related. Like they'll bring up a lot of feminist facts, you know, like 70 cents to the dollar and all that other bullshit. But then they also will like make fun of those facts. They'll be like, well, you know, I say that after my dad says after maternity leave and all that other stuff that women actually make just as much as men, you know. So it's like very, very split down the middle. But then that sexual soul episode, quote unquote, I don't think that's what it is, but it's sexual soul episode, they kill the dude. I think that's a little too far, and like very feminazi in a very strange direction to go. I think the strongest character in the show is probably, look at that fucking, just right there, this right here, right there, when you can see his lips and his eyeballs from behind him, right there is like, which shows how mediocre the animation is. Anyway, I think the strongest character in the show is probably going to be I made a note here. I was like, you have to talk about a strongest character, and I like thought about it. I guess the hormone monster, and I know it's weird because I made fun of how the character makes no fucking sense. But as a character, every time you see him, you're like, okay, something funny or at least something that's going to make me smile or chuckle is about to happen. Because he is just kind of a ridiculous character. And I feel like if they had kept that ridiculous premise or kept a more realistic premise and then had the hormone monster be this ridiculous outlier, then the show would have been great. Because the hormone monster was really funny. He had a lot of legitimately funny scenes. Like, he didn't make me laugh the first few episodes, but there were some episodes where I actually would laugh out loud because he was just like this ridiculous character. And then it was kind of like he was the ridiculous side of puberty, you know? He was, oh, this is the ridiculous thing that your mind's going to immediately think because you're in puberty, and it's going to cut to, and then it's going to be real life. And then you're going to be like, blah, blah, blah. But then they would intertwine that ridiculousness to the characters. So the characters would then do ridiculous stuff. So it's like, okay, that makes the hormone monster less creative. Because instead of him being like this ridiculous outlier that puberty is telling these, kids to go through, he's just another character who they can, throw away and pick up as they please. The weakest character in the show, I think, honestly, is probably like I was saying before, either the girl, and of course you would think that, you sexist pig. No, I just feel like they tried to put too much on her. They should have had 2 or 3 legitimate female characters, because they have the black girl I was talking about earlier. Missy is her name. They have Missy, and she's like kind of a female character, but like I said, she's very much an antagonist with very, very few protagonistic elements to her. So that character right there, the female character, even though she has to go through like divorce and stuff like that, and that's like a main part of her character, is that her parents start to get divorced, and she's going through puberty and everything, I still feel like she's probably the weakest character. And it's sad because as a guy, I didn't go through what women went through in puberty. So seeing a woman go through it would have been an interesting experience. It would have encouraged me to watch this, because I would have been like, okay, I can see it from both sides now. But making her the weakest character when she's the only major female character kind of just weakened it as a whole. One of my biggest problems with this show, and I'm sure you guys have seen, I've brought it up quite a few times, the show has no rules. There's no yes or no. There's no definitive anything when it comes to this show. Can the hormone monster be seen by everybody? Yes, sometimes, but no other times. He can't be heard, but he can be heard when it's when it's good for comedic reasons. He's very inconsistent. And a lot of the characters are very inconsistent. Her talking vagina, is that a thing? Is her vagina actually alive? I honestly can't tell. And normally, from looking at it from a normal show, something that ridiculous, you'd be like, nah. There's no way her vagina is actually alive. There's no way that those ghosts actually exist, right? But at one point, the ghost tells one of the characters something that the other character told the ghost. So how else would that character have known than if the ghost was actually a real character and actually told the original character? So it's like, it's hard, and you never want to watch a show where you don't know the rules of it, because it'll just be basically confusion throughout the entire thing. Like at one point the ghost and the hormone monster can talk to each other, so I guess they are real unless they're both a figment of the Jewish kid's imagination. But if they're both a figment of the Jewish kid's imagination, then why does the main kid get information about it? I should really learn these characters' names, but they, like I said, they were all very interchangeable characters. They didn't really have any themes to them or anything. It was just like, this week's episode is going to be about this main character, right? And it was the hardest part about the show. The show has no rules. So if you're going into this, don't go into it. It tries to be episodic, but the rules are so like poorly defined that it isn't very episodic, because you're just like, okay, well, that's how it was in this episode, but this episode could have completely changed the rules at this point. So I don't freaking know. So now I'm going to probably give you guys my final rating. The show has its moments, and it really does. But overall, I don't think it's a great show. I don't know how it has like an 8.9 out of 10. I don't know how it has 100% Rotten Tomatoes. I don't understand that, because it's okay, but it could have been done better, and it has been done better by other. And I know this is like basically a word for word reenactment of what I Hate Everything said on his review, but it has been done better by other adult animations. BoJack Horseman, South Park, stuff like that. It could have been done better. So I'm going to have to give it a, let's go 20,000 brown shirt infantry regiments out of 50,000. It's about a 2 out of 5. And well, let's define it a little bit more, okay? Let's give it a 50,000 brown shirt regiments out of 100,000 brown shirt regiments, okay? 5 out of 10, and it's because I'm basically grading on the critical moist meter, where it's like 50 is an average show, and that's all this show is. It's average. It has its moments, but it also has very like drawn away like moments that kind of almost make you not want to binge watch it, even though it's a Netflix show. And the whole point of Netflix shows is you're supposed to want to binge watch them. But multiple times last night I was like, I could continue watching this, or I could just go to bed. I'd look at my bed for a few seconds and I'd be like, okay, and I'd click next episode. And so yeah, definitely I would give it about a 5 out of 10, about an average rating, maybe a little better, and we'll see with season 2 if they can like improve the formula or try to like fix it, try to make it, you know, more unique. But as of right now, it's basically just an average everyday animated TV show. And yeah, but I hope you guys enjoyed the review. I know this is a little different than my usual format, and if I had editing, I would have been doing fun editing stuff with it, not just rewatching the same trailer for it over and over again. But it was either this or show someone else's highlight reel of it in the background, and then you have to deal with their little stamp and also, you know, stealing content and stuff. At least this way I'm only stealing content from Netflix so I can make fun of their show, right? But yeah, sit down, watch the show. If you're in any way a fan of animated shows, watch it. It won't be necessarily a waste of your time, but it definitely is just average. Don't expect anything better than average. You'll get a few chuckles out of it, and that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed. This has been Review Movie World, and I'll talk to you all next time. Bye.